wasn't about the relationships of my past. It was really about the patterns that my nervous system and my identity was wired in. That's what my upcoming book, Shattered to Shining, is all about. Helping women understand their why behind the patterns so you can actually change it. Because if we are just walking through life and we don't know where these roots are, how are we going to heal them?
Pull up a chair. You're sitting at the table with Powerhouse Women, the podcast where bold women in business come to connect, collaborate, and build something bigger than themselves.
We always say, if you're fortunate to have a seat at the table, pull up 3 more. That's exactly what we're doing here.
This isn't just a conversation, it's a movement. We're creating space at the table for conversations that matter. The ones that challenge you, push you, and remind you that you do not have to do this alone.
Every episode, we're talking growth, success, and the real, unfiltered truths of entrepreneurship. No gatekeeping,
no fluff, just the perspective and community that you need to thrive. So, if you're ready to surround yourself with women who get it, you're in the right place, and there is already a seat with your name on it. What's up, Powerhouses? Welcome back to another episode of At the Table with Powerhouse Women.
Today, we're pulling up a chair for Kristen Constantino. She is the founder of the Shining Method, and she's a coach helping empath women break trauma bonds, rebuild their identity, and rise into the love that they truly deserve. And she has an upcoming book called Shattered to Shining that is about her whole story, the roadmap that she wishes that she had while she was healing and rebuilding her identity. Kristen, I'm so excited about this. We recently met through some friends, and I knew there was so much depth here. We're so excited to have you. There's so much to dive into. Thank you for being here.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be surrounded by powerhouse women. That's what it's all about, right? You're a product of your environment. We need to surround ourselves with women who are strong and just making things happen. So it's an honor. Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's dive in here. Before KC Coaching, before the Shining Method, before this new book, Who were you? What were you doing? And what ultimately led you to this journey that you are now successfully thriving in?
Yeah. Thanks so much for asking. So, I like to say my work and what got me to the place of being this trauma-informed relationship and identity coach, it's not from a certification. I have the certification in mental wellness. I have the education, but it's truly more from this breaking point, from, breakthrough with what I experienced. And, there was a version of me on the outside. It looked like I had it all together. I'm teaching in the classroom. I'm running my own health and wellness business, partnered with a company, helping people with their physical wellness for over a decade. But, behind the scenes, it was more where I was like stuck in these patterns that I didn't understand. And I found myself in relationships where I'm overgiving, overthinking. Does this all sound familiar, right?
Oh, it does.
Oh, yeah.
And, lastly, it's like I'm trying to earn this love from other people and proving myself. And I just remember this specific moment where I'm sitting on the bathroom floor, I'm just completely overwhelmed, looking in the mirror, I'm not recognizing who I am. And I was just questioning everything. I was questioning my choices. I was questioning my worth, how I ended up being in this same toxic cycle. I had this pattern that I didn't realize I had when it came to mental and emotional abuse. And then prior to my husband, my fiance that I was engaged to, unfortunately, it had all the different types of abuse. It had financial, mental, emotional. It had a little bit of sexual abuse, a form of it. And then lastly, it had the physical abuse. And I just was like, how did I get myself here? And I didn't realize it then, but now I know it wasn't about that relationship. It wasn't about the relationships of my past. It was really about the patterns that my nervous system and my identity was wired in. So, that became my turning point. It was like not overnight, we all have layers of our onion that we need to peel back, and everyone has different layers. Okay. So it's not something that you could say, oh, it took me 60 days, that's what my program is, but it takes me 90 days. Everyone is different in that regard. But it was a moment that I was like, no, I'm not abandoning myself anymore. And I want to start rebuilding, who I am from that inside out. And that's really like where my work, it comes from. And that's what my upcoming book, Shattered to Shining, is all about. Helping women understand their why behind the patterns so you can actually change it. Because if we are just walking through life and we don't know where these roots are, how are we going to heal them? It's almost like you grabbing the weeds out of the garden, and all of a sudden you look, the weeds come back. Why? Because you didn't grab the root. So that's the biggest thing that I hear from women that I've worked with is like, I feel like myself again. But, it's not that version of themselves that is overthinking like I was in, over analyzing. It's the one that actually has clarity. They have the peace. They have their confidence back. And they're not stuck in this anxiety loop anymore. It's a real identity shift. And I honestly just get so fired up when that happens with these women and seeing that transformation, because that's what I experienced too. This is the shift that I had within me, being on the bathroom floor to that breakthrough and understanding what my roots are, understanding how I can rewire that false identity that I had that was driving me towards these toxic relationships, and seeing other women being able to do that too is the most rewarding thing. Like, I don't need the accolades. This is what I truly want. And at a deeper level, in a bigger picture, to me, being an educator, being someone who has worked with children, and even in my past relationship with my ex-fiance, he had children, and I love them to pieces, but you could see what that trauma does to them and how they view relationships. So this work is generational work to help, break those patterns once and for all. And, that's what it's all about. I mean, is helping not that one woman, but the ripple effect that it can cause in the future. So I'm just so passionate about it. And I know what could come from these transformations once you actually look inward, and that's why I do what I do. And, it's just part of that legacy that I want to leave.
Yeah, I'm really very excited to talk to you about this today, because I think a lot of women can relate to this on many different levels, right? Like, not everyone necessarily experiences the same type of abuse, but you mentioned multiple different kinds. And I'm sure a lot of us have been in some sort of relationship with one form of that at one point or another, which is, I hate to even say that, it sucks, right? But you have to learn from those patterns, like you mentioned. And it's a lot of soul searching work, like really trying to learn who you are and learn how to respect yourself. It sucks that we even really have to go through that at some point, but it's life changing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, because I think the most common thing that happens during those toxic cycles within relationships is when you're physically in it, you don't realize it. Hindsight is 2020. Always realize what happened after the fact, but when you're in it, you don't. So what are some, I would say, red flags early on that you can note that you're in a toxic, abusive relationship?
I feel like, in simplest terms, one really big one that I noticed myself was I was crying more than I'm smiling. So recognizing that, and the people that love us the most can also be engaged in I noticed it within myself where, because a lot of times when you're in a toxic relationship, someone that is abusing you, you start to pull yourself away from those really close relationships that you normally did have. And that is part of a trauma bond, and the strategies that, whether or not the abuser realizes or not, for instance, my ex-fiance, he was an undercover addict to pain medication. So being with someone who has addictions, comes with potentially a lot of abuse. So those people that are your, biggest cheerleaders, they will notice. They'll say, you're not yourself anymore. And then from there, you can start thinking, okay, why is that? What's going on? And in my experience, one of the, I think, best things that I did in that last toxic relationship with my ex-fiance was, go and get support. I was seeing a counselor and I was speaking out loud. What are some of the things that I wanted validation for? For instance, he was an addict, so he took the money that my dad gave us for a down payment for the venue. He took that and used that for his drugs. I didn't know at the time it was for the drugs, but all of a sudden he's like, oh, please let me be the one to put the money down for the venue. And I remember thinking in my head, because we had already financial abuse going on, and it happens little by little. I remember thinking in my head, like, this could be a really good test to see if, and that's also a red flag if you're saying I'm testing my fiance.
Yep, that's a good call.
It's like, how are you testing this person that you're about to partner with for the rest of your life? So I remember thinking that, and sure enough, we didn't lock in the venue, which, 2020 hindsight, like, I'm so happy we didn't, but he used that money for his own benefit. So there's financial abuse there. But I was talking it out loud, and she's like, this is betrayal. But one thing that I did not say to her was that he was being physically abusive with me. Because my logical brain knew I should not be in a relationship with someone who's physically abusive. Thankfully, after the relationship, I went to therapy. She's like, well, that's because you didn't have a tolerance for that. I didn't grow up with a family that was physically abusing me, so my tolerance wasn't high. Now, however, I did have experience with mental and emotional abuse, highs and lows, with my mother. I dedicated the book to her because she was a beautiful, strong-willed Greek woman, lots of amazing gifts, and she loved me so much, but she really had a hard time with handling her emotions. And there was a lot of heated, temperamental arguments and outbursts that I grew up with because of that. So that I tolerated. I thought this was normal. And that goes back to the wiring of your nervous system. And even though your nervous system is this security scanner, is what I talk about in my master class, it's constantly scanning to see what's safe and what's not. It's looking for what's familiar to you, even if it's unhealthy. So I think, when you start to consider, should I be going to counseling? And there's that breaking point. Yes, you can go to counseling because you want to better the relationship and that person is willing to work with you. So there's a fine line of saying, okay, this is counseling to better our relationship, or this is counseling so I can cope with our relationship. But yeah, I feel like anytime someone's making you feel icky and you're just crying and you're questioning your worth, that's a huge red flag that you need to move on.
For sure. And also, if you're keeping things from the people you love, like being physically abused. I remember I would always keep from my parents, like, certain crazy arguments that I was getting in with my ex, that they would probably be like, you shouldn't be dating this person. And I could not let them know what was really going on because I knew it wasn't right, but I didn't want to hear from people I love that I shouldn't be with that person. And that, I think for me was like the biggest red flag, but I didn't really fully understand that at
Right.
22, 23 years old. Once
Mhm.
I was like, okay, that was bad. That was wrong. And now moving forward in future relationships, if I feel that way at all, if I feel like I can't tell anyone something that's going on in my relationship that I know is bad, not the guy for me.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I think that was a big thing that I learned in relationship. I learned a lot in my past relationships, but I think a big one was also when you can't start, or if you were able to really confide in your person, and that starts to dwindle where you don't feel safe fully confiding in them because either it's going to be judgment or it turns into an argument or something gets spun back around, and it starts making you feel isolated and small because this is supposed to be like your person. They're supposed to be cheering you on, and like you're supposed to be building together. Like that's the whole point of love in a relationship, is it's two individuals coming together, colliding and becoming more than the two of you. And when that starts shrinking you, it sometimes that's slow at first, and so you notice it, but it's not fully registering as like, oh, we're disconnecting, or like, oh, we're actually not, we're growing apart, we're not growing together anymore. And sometimes that takes a lot of time to look back on, and like we said, hindsight's 2020. You look back at certain things and being like, did I was I just putting up with that because I thought it was normal? Because that's you just
Mhm.
you didn't know any better, or because you were young? Like, so that leads me into something.
Yes.
What, before and after this kind of shift for you, this moment, what did love look like to you back then, or what did you think love was supposed to look like? And now, because I know you're in a happy marriage now, and through all of this, how has that drastically changed?
Well, now it's safe and secure. There, I mean, of course, my husband and we aren't perfect and everything is, just always hunky dory, but we don't have explosive fights. Like we learn how to communicate with one another in a calm manner and address it as adults and with maturity. And as I
To get
mentioned,
to a resolve.
yes, to get to that resolve.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of my other relationships, when it came to the type of abuse that I was experiencing, it was what I witnessed as a child growing up. It was more of the highs and the lows, and experiencing the chaos, and then going back and rebuilding that love again. I'll never forget growing up. Like my mom would be yelling and screaming because she couldn't control her temper. I'd be crying and looking at myself in the mirror, just crying my eyes out, not really understanding why. And I can't even give you a specific, example of what the fight was about and why she was yelling at me. It was more so just the experience, because we tend to remember these emotional experiences. And then she would come and console me, and she would hug me, and we'd make up. It's going into the highs and lows, and that was all my romantic relationships. And it's not just romantic relationships. It could be you can have this pattern in your with your coworkers. You can have this pattern with your friendships, because this is what you're used to. This is what you believe love is. And growing up, I always felt like I had to earn that love. And in reality, that's not what you're supposed to do. I was always wanting to please my mom when she came home and make sure that everything was clean and she was happy to see me. And that's not what love, partnership and true love is. Safe, secure. It's bringing the best out of you, not sucking the life out of you. So
Yeah.
that's the difference. And it's kind of interesting because, I talk in my program, I talk a lot about personality types and understanding who you are, and why, like intrinsically why you do some of the things that you do. And now my husband is more calm as a cucumber like my father. But what I realized before my husband now, I was dating people like my mom and her personality and how she handled conflict.
Yeah, that sits with me, which is why, if you don't mind, I actually want to read the dedication of your upcoming book, because when I
Absolutely.
first read that, it stopped me for a second because I'm like, wow, I'm sure there are so many people that when they read this, they're like, not only is there so much awareness and compassion in this dedication, but you can tell that you were able to look at your own journey. But I like the metacognition that goes into realizing that and separating what is your healing and what is your journey and what is not yours is not only such a hard task, but it truly is a journey. So this
Very,
dedication,
very
this
profound.
book is dedicated to my mom, an incredible woman who did her very best in a world that gave her a survival scanner that misguided her. I now know that any pain passed down was born from her unhealed wounds, not a lack of love. I carry her strength, her resilience, and her tenderness with me every day. I honor her, I love her, and I fully forgive her. May her story live on through the healing of mine.
Yeah.
Which, when I read that, I was like, ooh,
You
like,
broke like a generational trauma, right? That's what you're doing.
That's the goal. You know, now we're married. We're on the path of trying to have our own family, and you know, God willing, we will be able to do that because we're doing fertility treatments right now. But yeah, I really, and that's part of the legacy of the book too, because I like no matter what happens down that path, that's really out of my control. Like I'm doing my best to control as much as I possibly can, which is, you know, always something to reflect on as well. But yeah, I want this legacy to be able to impact other generations. And, you know, my passion comes from looking at our youth and seeing what that can do. I remember teaching in a Chicago public school, and this child really had a hard time at home. You could tell. And he confided in me. It's like, my mom and dad are yelling all the time. And, you know, it's impacting their learning. It's impacting how they can retain information too. So definitely a bigger picture, this type of work.
it's definitely a much bigger picture. How old were you when you began to separate what was yours to heal and what was anybody else's, or who, or your mom's specifically in this situation? How long did it take you to really realize it's not all mine to heal?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I started forgiving my mom so I don't think I mentioned this. My mom passed away from bile duct cancer in 2012. So God rest her soul. I started forgiving her and doing some of that work, still not realizing the patterns that I had when it came to romantic relationships and my mom. But I started working on the forgiveness piece around 29. And for perspective, I'll be 43 in July. So I started working on that pretty early on after she passed away, because I was going to these incredible leadership trainings that really helped you work on that, because, you know, it was geared towards the business that I was building. But at the same time, if you aren't working on some of those internal false identities and unforgiveness, that's going to reflect on how your business grows too. It's going to reflect on everything. So I started doing that work as early as 29. And then it was more so after I left my ex-fiance, when I came to realize, like, oh, I had this vision for, you know, vocational work, my vocational work, my profession, and financial, and all these goals. But I really didn't have a vision for what I wanted in a partner, and understand that, oh, I need to actually do some of this healing work for my mom in regards to relationships that I had. So I wasn't connecting those dots until about 34 is when my ex-fiance and I ended things.
Realizing at some point in time that you need to work on yourself in order to be in those relationships is it's one of the hardest things to do, but it's also so profound and it like levels you up. I think like I experienced that. I was younger and I'm glad that I did experience at a younger age. I feel like, I mean, I'm still single, not married, just for context. But at a younger age, I realized that I needed to work through certain things, certain ways to like find respect for myself.
Yep.
And now I'm in a place where I will not put up with anything that goes against that. But it's so profound to learn those things. Some people never do, but some people also don't understand that you have to do the work in order to get exactly what you're looking for in a healthy relationship. So props to you for going through that journey. We all really have to do it. It's human.
And I think there are so many people that you can hear stories from, and I think sometimes they just don't quite land until you have gone through even a small element of it yourself. I even remember my mom telling me stories when I was young, kind of gearing me up for what some relationships could be like, or kind of those red flags. And I'm like, okay, mom, like I I know of my relationship. I like my relationship. And it wasn't until after where I'm like, why didn't I just listen to my mom? Like she did know.
Do
And I'm like,
sometimes. They really
like
do.
to a T, like she actually knew what was going on in that moment. But, 20-year-old me is like, no, I know better. I can change the bad guy. Like
Yep.
we can do it together. I'm gonna save him, it's gonna be this, it's gonna be something. And then you look back on it and you're like, why did I even want to do that in the first place? Like what was I trying to prove?
Well, one thing when you're young is when you're young, like you think that everything that you're doing is the right way. And
Yes.
it
And then
is
it's
not.
better. Yeah.
It's all a learning experience. It really is.
It's a beautiful learning experience. And just so everyone knows, our healing journey, it's not this linear path. You're going to have the ups and downs. One thing that really stuck with me from some of the leadership trainings that I've been to, no matter what, wherever you get started in anything that you're trying to work towards bettering or, refining, you never go back to that starting point. Yes, you're going to go up. You get plugged in, and maybe something happens in life, and then you unplug, and then you go here. And then you get plugged in again, and then you're going back up. And then you unplug a little bit, and then you kind of go here, maybe down a little bit, but you never go back here. So anything that you're, investing in when it comes to personal growth and development is worth every single moment, every single penny, because it's going to propel you forward towards your ultimate vision and success. So, yeah.
I completely agree. So, can you tell us a little bit about what the shining method actually does?
Yes. This is
Because that's also like a huge part of a healing journey is getting some sort of practice in, correct?
right. Getting the practice. It's an 8-week program, but it doesn't mean, poof, I'm done in 8 weeks, right? And then now that program is in a book to make it even more accessible for women. But no, essentially the Shining Method, it's an acronym, but I'll just, sum it all up as a framework for women just to help them break toxic patterns. Now, at not just in the mindset, but at more of a identity and nervous system level. Because, most people, we don't need more advice. We got the Dr. Google and Chat GPT for all that. We need transformation at that root. And so what we really focus on is that level of awareness, which we're basically talking about right now. So people can start having some like aha moments. And then within the program, there's the emotional regulation piece with specific techniques that I help women go through. And one of my favorite is that identity rebuilding, like finding actually who they really are and embracing that. And then from there, there's just this aligned action. So now they just don't know better. They're actually doing better because they have rewired that nervous system towards safety and just desiring to have the safety. And I remember, Morgan, you were talking about wanting to change the man. And, there's the trauma bond that will keep you in the relationship longer than you should. And there's also, I think, personality types and personality traits that has that desire to want to change those people. So we develop these codependencies to kind of like prove, okay, well, I'm worthy because, even though this man put his hands on me, I have this Jesus complex that I can change him and make it better. And then I feel good, right? So we work on not feeling good from exterior point of views as well. It's more on that internal level.
I absolutely love that. I think that it will really, I'm sure it does help so many women get through their healing journey. I think a lot of the time we kind of do these healing journeys ourselves, but there really is so many other women out there that have gone through the same things, similar things. There's so much community built around going through toxic relationships.
That's what I love about it. I will work with women one-on-one, but one of my favorite ways to work with women is with the group. So we can build that sisterhood. And it's literally the women I work with, we're like family now. Because
I love that.
That's how, and like this is a place I can go to if there's that point where I kind of like unplug and I go down a little bit. I know I can go back to them and go right back up again, so I can get plugged back in and stay accountable. Because anytime we learn something new, I know you ladies know, and just with real estate, you need some accountability and to grab someone's hand that's been through it and can guide you through those steps and, let you know, like, this is normal. This is okay, what you're feeling right now, and just validate those experiences.
Absolutely. I feel like there's different definitions or different types, I would say, of trauma bonds. How would you explain to someone that doesn't know what a trauma bond is?
In my book, there's all the different phases of a trauma bond, and I just want to talk about it in the simplest terms possible, so it's easy for you to understand. And if you want more details, obviously, when the book launches in the summer, you can look into that. But it's essentially emotional pain and emotional connection getting intertwined.
Makes so much sense.
Yeah. So and then it creates something called intermittent reward, and you have these cycles of highs and lows. So you're hurt, then you're comforted. The experience that I was talking about with my mom, and your brain starts just associating that person with both pain and relief. You're constantly like seeking the relief, and I think too, certain personality types that are the adrenaline seekers, they are drawn to these types of relationships because of the personality types too. Maybe somebody with ADD, like you always need that dopamine kick. So we're constantly getting that when the abuser cycle goes back to the love bombing phase, if you will. And this creates this loop that feels so hard to break because you want those reliefs, excitement moments. And then when your nervous system is not wired properly because of past experience from childhood, sometimes these calm and collected men that you're dating feels really boring.
Oh, you are speaking of my right now, like, because I was one of those people that I loved the fire and the ice.
Yes.
And it took me years to realize, like, that's not good. That's not going to amount to a good relationship, a good, healthy, long-term relationship. And I had to kind of break that cycle for myself of like, kind of always seeking out the fire in the ice. It was never going to benefit me, even though it might feel a little fun in the moment. It's really it's not healthy. And I also have struggled with that boringness. Like when something is so healthy, and I've heard this from so many friends and even like just adults of mine, that once they got into like a very healthy relationship, at first it was really boring and they struggled with it. But they knew that it was like real good healthy love. And how do you like get past the boring thing? Like I'm still kind of learning.
That's so funny. Like, hey, excuse us. That's why they say the nice guys finish last. Right?
This is true.
Frog. You put me through all this drama, and then there's the prince who's just calm and collected. I mean, honestly, my husband is not boring at all. I think you do have to find a balance. We have very similar personalities. I know they say opposite attract. I don't know if it's because we found our, one another in our late 30s, that we just have very similar visions and interests and goals. And he's very fun loving and, always wants to have a good time. But at the same time, he's not one to explode and, call me names. I mean, that should never happen in a relationship.
No, yeah. We're too old for that at this point.
Yeah, we're adults now.
That's happening. You say, okay, you need to grow up and I'm not going to wait for you, but I hope it happens for you, kind of thing. Right? And then but yeah, we're very similar personalities. I think it's going to be more of like, and we have similar interests. My husband and I met. Before I met him, I was going, I had a one-on-one coach I hired. I'm going through therapy. And she recommended, which I talk to my clients about, is like creating that vision of what you want. And you don't have to make it too rigid. We just create this list. You're like, they don't have everything, then it's not right. No. You create some deal breakers. You want some deal breakers on there because that's going to weed out a lot of people that you shouldn't be even dating more than once. And then you have your must-haves. They can kind of be bent. You can bend those a little bit. And then nice to have. Those can be bendable. Those are definitely bendable. There's no perfect human on this planet. I created this list. I had this vision. What I didn't realize now, or back then that I do now, is like I was doing the feeling. I was like imagining it. They're called incantations because I had a fertility coach that put a label on what that is. And I'm like, okay. And then he literally was asking me what the list was. And he's connecting with it. He has a lot of what I wanted, definitely deal breakers. I wanted a man that was strong in faith. I'm a Christian woman. And then I wanted somebody who wanted a family. So those were my two. Oh, and also somebody that didn't smoke cigarettes because my ex-fiance quit and then he started smoking while we were together. I'm like, no.
That would be tough.
You're gonna die young, going down this rabbit hole. So yeah, having that in mind and really just connecting on those interests. And one of the things that we wanted to do is not live in Illinois for the rest of our life. And we had a vision to move somewhere else. So we moved across the country together from Chicago to Arizona. We love hiking, we love being outdoors, and it's still a lot of fun, but he's super calm and I don't have trauma from him.
Yeah, you needed to find that alignment with your partner. We all do. I know Morgan's huge with that too. We talk about it all the time. And it sounds to me like you manifested your husband. And right. I have so many questions about that because I don't know if you're supposed to like imagine small little things like the 3 deal breakers or whatever. I have a list of like 30 things on my phone that it is so long. And I've shown people before, they're like, I don't feel like any of these are like bad things to have on a list. Like it makes sense. But I'm like, if I could dream up my perfect man, this is the list. And like, sometimes when I date guys, I like check off the boxes. And I'm like, they don't have that one box, but I can look past certain things. Like some of them aren't deal breakers. Some of them are like personality traits, little things that maybe I could like look past. But do you feel like having those types of like boxes to check are a little bit more like limiting? Like, how do I manifest
I
my
think
perfect?
that's where the categories come into play so strongly, because when I met my husband, there were things on the list that he didn't have just yet, but he was working towards them. He's working towards them.
Yeah, the potential.
Maybe even like, yes. And that's the thing, it's like potential. But he had the fruit of that. So I talk about love languages, with my clients as well. And you got to be really careful if one of your love languages is words of affirmation.
Oh, that's mine.
Mine too.
That's my love language. Like, say all the nice things to me, but also that's also how I give love too. It's on both ends. I receive it that way and I give it that way. So I find that to be kind of interesting.
Very common. And that's something, even my husband and I talk about. Like, okay, you haven't said I was pretty. I haven't heard you say I'm pretty in a long time and I need that, or like want that. So there's communication there too. That's not his main love language. His main love language is quality time. And so that's how
most men are not words of affirmation.
Yeah.
I will say. Most are not.
Right. So going back to the words of affirmation, they can easily manipulate you if that is your main
love bombing.
Because they're just going to say the word, but where are the actions? That's where the saying comes from. Actions speak louder than words. Because
it's so true.
And that's the word, acts of service. So maybe you're looking for somebody who wants to do acts of service for you, even though it might not be your primary love language. And then you start to understand those things and you have more grace for that partner, because I know he was really good in the beginning. That's just how everybody is. But it's not like he snowed me. But it's just not his natural thing to be, I'm going to give you words of affirmation. So he's working on it. But I give it to him and he's like, I don't need it. Like, he just it doesn't, you don't have to say it. It's most for him when I do those things, especially if it's public. So
I'm learning through all of this. I feel like if I'm not getting that obsession, love bombing thing, at the beginning, I'm kind of bored.
Yeah. I'm like, are you not obsessed with me?
If you're not obsessed with me, I'm not interested. But I don't think that is truly what the right thing is. I've been in long-term, serious, loving relationships that kind of started slightly love bombing. It was a little bit like that. So it's not always love bombing, but
I was just gonna say
it can be at the same time. I've experienced love bombing in the truest sense of what it is, where they say all these things and their actions do not line up with it. And then I've also experienced where they're saying all these nice, amazing things and they're actually doing the actions. So
yep.
And I like the love bombing when they actually align with the action. Align with the words.
Well, here's the other thing too. I talk about it with my clients. I think it's also important to identify, to partner with somebody who's interested in growth, which I think you can find with men who are in entrepreneurship. Not always, but you have to grow personally or spiritually when you're an entrepreneur. That's no doubt in my mind. And so that was important to me. He was a man of faith. He was going to church and he was journaling and all these things. I think that was also very attractive, because you're not going to be the only one growing in the relationship, and then all of a sudden, here I am, grow, and then their person is just staying stagnant, and not willing to to do those things. And men typically aren't the ones that are I'm going to therapy. That's just more of a woman thing, you gotta have some grace and understand the refinement. So I talk about, what kind of personality type are you really looking for? And sometimes those go-getters, the drivers, which could be the entrepreneurs, if they're not practicing some type of personal growth, you got to be mindful and watchful for those type of men.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say I have noticed lately with some men that I've dated in the past couple of years, they are going to therapy. like a lot more than you would have expected.
Um,
I'm seeing it more often and I'm shocked.
that's
Definitely
huge.
shocked.
Yeah.
That's a huge action that you're like, ooh, okay. I'm gonna put a pin in
Makes
this.
a difference. It's like that's like the biggest green flag. Like if you're aware that you knew something was wrong and you needed to work through that and you got the help that you needed. I mean, I did it. I went to therapy for like 7 years and that helped me through so much. But if that's a sign that you're willing to grow. So
Yep.
huge red green flag, I mean.
Yeah. Huge green flag
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
they're interested in growing personally. Because
Yeah.
that's something you want to do and they're not, it's going to it's going to be impactful on your relationship.
Yeah. Well, and the longer that time goes on, you're going to start seeing that you're outgrowing them, and if they are not following, they're like this anchor that's tethering you down, and it makes it harder for you to grow. So even if you are growing, you're growing at a slower pace. And eventually it's going to almost be this like snapping effect, or you got to cut that cord. Like if they're not there with you, that's really tough, which kind of leads me into this question. You talked about love languages, which I think the majority of people have heard about love languages, know about them. What I heard recently, and I don't know if this is an actual thing or not, but it was like on top of your love languages, you also need to know your like fighting languages,
Oh,
how
yeah.
you communicate during those disagreements, because that's when shit is hitting the fan. That is when you are not seeing eye to eye. That's when the name calling comes out. That's when
Yes.
pulling random shit out of history and throwing it back in somebody's face comes out. And so it's learning when those things happen, how do you actually sit down, communicate, and get to a resolution? Not just an ending of the disagreement, but to an actual resolution. And I feel like that element, a lot of people miss, or either they think that the love languages are so important, which they are, but there's this whole other aspect of you are going, no matter what relationship it is, your mom, your dad, your significant other, your friends, you're going to go through things that are tough, that pull you apart, that are awkward, that are weird. But how do you communicate and come back together to get to actual resolve, not keeping score and holding resentment towards people? And that is a whole other feat in and of itself, which I'm sure that your coaching and your conversations with women also talk about. It's more than, it's finding your identity, and it's standing up for yourself, and it's figuring out where those boundaries are. And then that's how you can lead to a resolution. But you need to find a partner that can also get in the trenches with you and show up and have that resolution. And I'm sure with your husband now, just how you described him as like, he's a calming force. Like, it doesn't mean that everything is sunshine and rainbows,
Right.
but it's a calming force that when things go wrong, you can count on one another. It doesn't become this rift between you.
You're not afraid to talk about things because you know that it can be like a mutual calm conversation where there's a solution that you're looking for and everyone wants to resolve it, not just one-sided.
Right.
Yes.
I love that you brought
And realizing when it's one-sided.
Yeah.
I think that was a mistake that I made, is in one of my big last relationships, I thought we were getting to a resolve after all of these different like fights or disagreements. So I'm thinking we're good. And then 7 years in, we are going to therapy, and he's bringing up things from year one that I'm like,
wow.
whoa, like, were we not, I thought we were totally over this. And it was like score after score after score. And it led to this deep resentment towards me that I didn't even know existed, because I thought we were resolving fights. I thought we were getting through it. And now, given I was also young, so I can look back at some of those and being like, yeah, Morgan, you didn't handle all of those correctly either.
Right.
But that's such, knowing when your partner is actually in the resolution with you sometimes is not as easy as it seems to be. And recognizing that and knowing that you're a team and keeping it as a team is really important.
Oh, that is
So profound.
I love that. I love that you're a team. Like we are transitioning. We're married. We're a we instead of a me. And we're all very strong, independent women.
Yes, we are.
Say, oh, we're we instead of me, because my husband and I had some of those conversations when it came to myself, because I was single for I had these big relationships, but I was single a lot in my 20s and in my 30s, because my fiance and I were only together for 2 years. And so transitioning the mindset, and I think this is especially if you're engaged, you're getting married, and you're really making that true commitment to someone, you're transitioning from me to we, and that can help with the conflict resolution and any disagreements that you might have. You're like, okay, wait, we're a team, so we have to figure out what's going to help us. And that's what they talk about, like, compromise and relationships are important too. Communication, compromise, all this.
Back to your book, Shattered to Shining. It's about reclaiming your confidence, the voice after a toxic relationship. I think you mentioned that it will be coming out this summer.
Yes, that's the goal. We are in
all right, summer 2026.
Yes, production mode right now. So I will definitely be announcing when it officially launches, but the goal and the vision is this summer.
Awesome. I can't wait to read it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I already know I'm going to see pieces of myself that are in this book, and I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, that is something that I either learned on my own or taking new nuggets away, being like, oh shit, like there's a lot more to go on in here. Like you can always keep digging, especially with this. Like you said, these are generational patterns. It is not just you. It goes so much further beyond you. And being able to have something that you can truly lean on and learn from other people's experiences is incredible. So I am so excited to read your book. It's coming out so soon. I'm so happy. Where can people find you? Where can people find the launch of the book announcement when this comes out?
You can follow me at Kristen A, as in Ann Constantino, on Instagram. So we'll be announcing it there. And then I'll send you all some links to stay in touch with me and just get a little bit more awareness. For instance, I have the mirror match quiz to realize, what kind of toxic partner am I matching with on a regular basis, and some tips on how to overcome that. Yes. So you can be on my emailing list. Also join my free community on Facebook, just to get the latest and the greatest that's coming out.
Thank you so much. Before we go, though, we have one more little segment that we like to do. We do a hot take at the end. It could be anything you want. It doesn't have to be related to anything we talked about, or it can. Do you have a hot take?
Yes, this is something I'm really excited about because it's consuming me right now, and I have to actually use a lot of the strategies that I teach my clients to, make sure that my nervous system is calm and I can relax. But one thing that I'm really passionate about and have come to discover, so it's a little bit connected. It's indirectly or maybe directly connected to what I experienced in toxic relationships. My husband and I met at 36. We didn't get married till like 37, and then we moved across the country. Here I am thinking, I'm a healthy woman. I'm going to be able to get pregnant. It's not a big deal. But my hot take is how drastically understudied women's health is.
Oh, we've been talking about this for episodes.
Oh, really?
This was my hot take last week. It is, I am so on board with this. It is crazy, but I'd like to hear what you say.
Just even education. I was diagnosed with endometriosis a couple years ago because I wasn't getting pregnant. And, I was obviously, I'm the type of person, if something's going on, I'm doing my research. My undergraduate degree is in kinesiology. So the study of body movement, I'm really into. My past coaching experiences was with physical wellness. So I'm very knowledgeable in this, and I geek out on all of it. So the only time I ever heard of endometriosis was when I started trying to conceive. Why? That is wrong. Or PCOS, which are the 2 leading causes of infertility. You know,
It's so wrong.
it's not right. We should be more prepared. And, you know, I wish I would have frozen my eggs when I was younger, those types of things. And not to mention the things that are not covered from insurance. When I have a disease preventing me to get pregnant, and yet we are paying $28,000 out of pocket to do IVF now. And, you know, there was a part of me that felt ashamed to go down that route because I'm like, no, I want to do it naturally. I'm so healthy. And, you know, I had this ego about it. But, you know, I'm going to be 43. So there is a time that it's more effective when it's not. So if I didn't have that opportunity, I would have regretted it. I just know I would have. So that's where we're at right now. We're now in the phase of going into transfer, but it's mind blowing to me that I didn't have more education about this in my 30s, and we don't have education about this for teenagers. Like,
No,
you know about their body. I didn't realize. I mean, how come it was until I tried to conceive? Like, oh, it's only like maybe like 5 days out of the month that you can have the baby. Like even that.
I know.
I learned that like this year.
Same.
Same. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Morgan and I have been talking about this a lot. We actually had pretty much like a whole episode about it last week.
Oh, I have to listen.
So when it comes out, check that out. But yeah, it's really scary as a woman. I feel like we don't have enough information about our bodies. And I mean, Morgan and I have been recently talking about like this whole birth control saga that we're both dealing with. I recently just went off the pill to kind of like regulate my hormones at this point because I got thrown on the pill when I was 15 years old. And that's what's happening to teenagers. They're getting thrown on a pill that no one really knows like anything about it or what the true long-term effects are, aside from just being able to like not get pregnant, like during the teenage years, right? That's what we're avoiding. But there's definitely a lot of long-term effects. I don't even know what my hormones have really been. Like they've been getting kind of like off in the last few years, I would say. So it's really scary and we need more knowledge on it, and our insurance needs to cover this stuff.
Yes.
I agree.
But I wish you had the absolute best of luck with your. Are they doing the retrieval or?
Well, we did the retrievals already. We just did. I mean, we did 3, and because of my age, the doctor recommended us not testing and doing day 3 embryos because that seems to work just because you have more opportunities. I mean, I don't have to go all the details, but after day 3, there's a big drop off in attrition. So you lose a lot of embryos after day 3, essentially. So we have 15, which is amazing. Yeah, after two, because the first one we did do the testing round and it didn't work out very well. So we have 15 opportunities, and then, we'll transfer. So we're in that phase of going into the transfer, which is so exciting, but also very nerve wracking because all this work, and this is it.
Well, that's I'm rooting for you guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. But Dr. Jolene Brighton is an amazing person that I'm learning a lot from. So I highly recommend her podcast when it comes to women's health and hormones. Because there's influencers, there's people that are doing this, but it's wrong that it's not more mainstream.
I agree. We're learning about it through podcasts. We talked about this.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It is.
These are doctors.
I'm not learning things from doctors. I'm learning them from podcasts.
Right. Well, more like functional medicine or naturopathic.
Naturopaths, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they're thousands of dollars. I went to a naturopath. Amazing. Naturopaths really are incredible. It's just so expensive because you're not covered.
Oh, girl.
Yeah.
And prior to that, because I had surgery for endometriosis, prior to that, we probably spent $15,000 to $20,000 to trying naturally. because I'm seeing naturopaths, I'm going to chiropractors, I'm doing, something called Mercier therapy. I'm doing all the things that I could do to try, and I got surgery. And that's the other thing when it comes to endometriosis, I would say any woman that's listening, they have suspicion of it, most definitely look for an expert in the excision surgery. I did not. And I'm not saying that my doctor was bad. I think she's a wonderful doctor. But I think I just wish I would have done my due diligence there and found an expert in that area.
Definitely. Best of luck on your journey.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Morgan, do you have a hot take?
I'm going to keep my hot take short and sweet, kind of related to our conversation.
Mhm.
I kind of touched on it already, but if your conflicts in any relationship don't lead to resolution, they're not actually conversations, they are scorekeepers. I think that's the biggest one for me.
Yeah,
So
I
good.
can relate to that too. And it's like they hated you the whole time. They're keeping score and tabs.
Yes.
Weird.
They're just like, they're storing it away, and they're just going to let it build a little bit of resentment, and then one day, that last piece, it's just going to, all the cards are going to fall, and if you're not in the know,
Yeah.
you're going to be looking around like, what do you mean? Like, and there's no going back from that because it's too many, you can't reopen them. There's too many scores that have been kept.
Right.
It's awful. They bring things up that are so random and out of left field
Yeah.
just to like
Yes.
ruin your day, just to ruin your
Yeah.
day. I thought
Oh
we
my
were
gosh.
this.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I remember things being brought up that were before we had even like started dating, and I'm like,
Oh, wow.
hold on. Like,
My
how
God.
can I be in trouble for something that I did before we like truly met and got together? I'm like, how is this a scorekeeper? Like, that's
Right.
insane.
Does anyone have a unique experience anymore? Because
Like,
why have we all dealt with this?
yeah,
Right.
truly.
It's
Like,
your own unresolved trauma. So a lot of it.
yeah,
That's where a lot of
it's being
personality
passed
disorders
down. It's
come up.
generational.
Yep.
Please go to therapy.
Yeah.
Please, when listening, I know this is geared towards women, but consider therapy.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody should go to therapy. It's
Everybody.
amazing.
It really is.
I have-
Marley.
Yeah, I do. I
Yeah.
have one. It's related to relationships. I feel like I always get all my hot takes from TikTok, things that I see on TikTok. I saw a TikTok recently, and it was a woman that's married, and she was saying that she is worried about all these younger women getting dating advice from people on TikTok, and saying that relationships are supposed to be hard, like love relationships I'm talking about. I mean, I guess really all, but she said relationships are supposed to be hard. They're not supposed to be easy. It's a lot of work, this, that, the other thing. And my personal hot take is I don't agree with that. I think your true, like you're the love of your life, your partner that you choose to be with, I don't think it's supposed to be hard. And I remember in past relationships I've been in, I've heard that it's a lot of work. It's hard. So I would correlate that with my relationship that I was in that was hard and kept pushing through because I thought that that's what you're supposed to do. But I have parents that have been married for over 30 years and they're in a wonderful, beautiful relationship, and it's not hard. It is very easy. And they have always talked about how easy their relationship is. And I obviously look for a relationship that emulates what my parents have because who wouldn't, it's easy. So I don't know. I don't agree with that relationships are supposed to be hard. I think they should be easy when it's the right one.
That's the quote I got after I was with my husband when we were dating for a while. I said, love is no guessing, no games, it just fits.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't like that narrative that's being spewed out that it's a lot of work. If it's a lot of work, it's probably not the right one.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. I think there's work involved.
Sure.
But if you're looking at your entire relationship and you're just like, it's hard, like we're getting through it, but it's hard. You're like, that's exhausting. Are you kidding me? Like, no. I did with my ex-husband. I remember him at the end. He was like this should be way easier than it is. And honestly, yes, it should have been way easier. But there was an element of me too that was like, well, you also have to like show up to do some of the work. Like, there are going to be hard times, there are going to be hard conversations, but when you're with the right person, it doesn't turn into this full-blown fight. You're, like we talked about earlier, you're sitting down, you're having a calm conversation. When things get heightened, you can even call it out and being like, you know what? I'm super anxious right now, or like, I'm really frustrated. Like, give me a second. And the other person will see that and be like, I got you. Like, and it, like, that makes the hard things easier. So I
Exactly.
completely agree. Like,
the communication should
shouldn't
be seamless. You should be able to know how to communicate with each other. And look, I'm sure at the beginning of relationships, that's something we all need to like learn with our partner, like how we communicate with each other. But everyone needs to be willing and understanding of how everyone communicates differently. And that's like the work, I would say, but it shouldn't be hard.
Right.
Yes.
That's the component.
I completely agree. I love that one.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that today.
Right.
And it was so nice talking with you. I really thank you so much for coming on today.
Yes.
And we learned so much, and I'm so excited to read your book.
Yay. Thank you, ladies.
Yes.
We'll have Kristen's info in the show notes, guys. So take a look at that and give Kristen a follow. Bye, guys.
Y'all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Morgan.
That's a wrap on this episode of At the Table with Powerhouse Women. Thanks for tuning in. If you love today's conversation, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review.
Your support helps us keep pulling up more seats at the table.
Want to keep the conversation going? Join the movement at powerhousewomen.com/society.
And connect with us on Instagram at Powerhouse Women.
Until next time, keep showing up, keep building, and remember, there's always room at the table for you.